You're listening to the Gettin' Salty Experience podcast.
And away we fucking go. Right out of the box, I dropped one. I dropped it in the box.
Right out of the box, he's dropped
Right out of the box, I dropped it.
Well, there goes our YouTube channel. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's now over.
Nothing better than a Friday night at the Firehouse kitchen table, Roofy, except
Saturday night.
Oh, but it's a Friday night, and we are here. We're back. Gettin' Salty Experience podcast, the only podcast in the whole wide world that brings the Firehouse kitchen table to you on a Friday freaking night. And Pete, self-proclaimed best
firefighter podcast in the world, man.
In the world.
Yeah,
TM,
registered trademark.
I might make a shirt like that.
That would be copyright Rick and Bobby Inc.
We might make a shirt like that. Self-proclaimed best podcast in the world.
Copyright Rick and Bobby Inc. Rights reserved.
All right, guys.
21, whatever it takes.
We got a good show because we got a guy got a lot of stories because he had 82,000 years on the job, something like that. He
was first due at the burning bush.
He was super annuated, if you know what that means, bro. He went to the end. He aged out, but he looks good. He looks good for 100 years old. But no, I'm only kidding. We'll bring him on in a minute. But we got to do the shameless plugs and all that other stuff. But I went to a concert last night, as many of you saw.
Yeah, how was that, man?
Awesome.
Who'd you go see and where?
3 Doors Down and Seether at Jones Beach Theater.
3 Doors Down.
Feel no pain, bro.
Who's 3 Doors Down? That's
you know who they are. Come on,
my daughter follows them.
Who do they play? What do they play?
You know.
Who's the No, I don't know. But who's the drummer for 3 Doors Down?
How the hell do I know? I don't know.
Because I heard he went like this. Is that him?
Wait, play it again.
That's him.
That was him, Pete. You
that was cool
bitch,
last
you
night.
got it.
Like this.
I thought we nailed it. You know what I mean?
Oh, and the gun went. Good, me and the old lady we were doing one of these, bro. Yeah, man, it was awesome. Yeah,
you gotta be careful because if you gotta be careful headbanging at your age, dude.
I could have hurt my neck, right?
I was hurt at work today.
You were hurt.
Oh, he's coming out hot tonight,
dude. He is lobbing him up,
he's lobbing him up to me.
You're going right at him. I mean, he's
like this. I wanted to ask you about the concert, so he had it all set up.
He had it all set up.
You son of a bitch! You
just be careful.
Had a good time.
I had to figure it because he was too excited to get on. Right, like he was all excited. Like,
yeah, I wanted to ask you. I want to ask you about the concert. I got to ask you.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the concert.
Yeah.
Sorry, you know what? Just to give the audience a little backfill on that one, this is really more of an internal joke. We spent about 28 hours listening to every freaking Jerky Boys back to back on the way home from wherever Syracuse or wherever we did. Yeah. And it just went on and on and on. It kind of sounded like for about 22 hours. And that's probably our favorite one, the Civil War one.
That's the Civil War one. And the Gatling gun, it goes bra 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 bra.
Don't kill it now. You're going to kill it.
All right.
No, man, we have to come in. Hey, but you know what? We do have a sponsor tonight that we have to pay these bills with.
All right, we do. So, Pete, let's get serious now because this is a serious thing.
Okay,
the voiceover guy is excellent. I don't know who this guy is, but he's really good.
Well, all I can tell you is this, that we are super proud to have our new sponsor, Chief 360, and check them out. Are your responders slowed down using outdated or unreliable technology? Chief 360 enhances operation with technology products that reduce response times and increase situational awareness. Chief 360 Station Alert is the most affordable and reliable alerting system on the market. Designed with health and cardiac wellness in mind, it uses escalating tones to alert and wake up responders. The system also uses both CAD and tone dispatching to ensure rapid, reliable alerting. Chief 360 Mobile offers an easy-to-use interface to get responders fast and accurate dispatching into the palm of their hands. When every second counts, rely on Chief 360. Check them out now at chief360.com. Again, that is chief360.com.
Fabulous spokesman. Fabulous spot.
Chief 360,
Wow.
ladies and gentlemen.
You could have been like a Mike Rowe plug. You know what I mean? You sound just, maybe do like crabbing or something. Throw him on a
I
boat.
really do. We got to get to our guest because he had 43 years on the job, so he's got he might have fell asleep. He's got about 43,000 stories. So without further ado, let's bring him on. 43 years on the FDNY, Lieutenant Rick Bruno. Woo! And there he is.
Woo! What's up, LT?
Hello, guys. Thank you
Welcome to
for
the
the
show.
invitation, and thank you, Lieutenant Bob Sano, for getting me here.
We like that
Sano.
guy, Sano, Bobby Sano.
A
We
former
don't
guest.
like him that much. We really don't like him that much. Maybe
He's
a
going
little
to be on the rig show when we do the rig show down at the shops. He's a big rig guy, big fire truck guy.
He's good whatever he does.
He's
He
look
is.
at you. How much did he pay you tonight? You're his sponsor tonight, right? Tonight's show, tonight's guest is brought to you by Bob Sarno.
Nice.
I really think. Let's dive right into it, there.
Well, before we do, we have something.
what?
We have something special because
Oh.
the lushes on our show absolutely will crucify us unless we deliver.
Thank you, Pete. That's why you are the best producer, probably self-proclaimed best producer in the world. I'm just saying.
It's the self-proclaimed best producer in the game. That's right. That's right. Guys, you know what time it is, right?
What time is it, Pete?
It's time for the word of the day, and the word of the day is tiger.
Should we start?
Chief Kleehouse said, "Hello, Rick. Good seeing you."
Hello back to Chief Kleehouse.
Now you're a new guy working on him. You'll
He's
get
the
him.
next guy. Yeah.
We'll work
Jack,
on him.
if I could do it, you could do it.
We'll get him.
Chief.
Let's now we can dive in, Pete. Are we good to dive?
I'm sorry, brother. Yes, absolutely. It's your show. Go for it.
Go. All right. Let's start. Where you come from, Lou? What part of the neighborhood? What part of the
All
city?
right. I'm a city guy through and through. Born and raised in Bushwick. Before it burned down. Left there early 60s.
Wow.
And then I went to East New York.
When George Jefferson.
When
That
Fortune
was-
was there, I'm sure.
That was
Fortune.
going to the suburbs back then.
Yeah, right.
And then we stayed there a few years. I was already on the job living in East New York. And I was already a fireman. And when I would go to work, there was smoke over every horizon from Highland Boulevard. I think you guys know up on the hill.
Yeah, up on the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you looked out, and I had East New York, I had Brownsville, I had Bushwick.
Wow.
And I knew I was going to work.
What made you want to become a fireman? Any family on the job?
Sheer luck, but my grandfather was a 40-plus guy. He came on, Pete has a picture of him. He came on in 1908.
Holy 1908.
Yeah,
on.
1908. And he got out sometime during the 50s. Jack Lurch from the Mann Library, he worked his butt off trying to do research for me, but there was very little going back that far. And he was assigned 59 truck, but this was before they added the numbers in 1913 to all the units. Yeah, so 59 truck was 109.
Right.
Holy
Yeah,
mackerel.
that's right. They added 60, right? They added 60 to each of the
They
trucks.
added 50 and then,
50 and then
I don't know what
60
the
to the
system was.
engines. I forget which one they did. Right.
But why I became a fireman, the 60s were a turbulent time. I ended up in college to keep from getting drafted, basically. Had no idea what I wanted to do. And I'm at a Hamptons bar. I'm probably 17, maybe 18 years old. And one of the guys I used to work with sees a friend behind me. And it was packed. I couldn't even turn around to see who he was talking to. So, and I remember the name. I don't know what happened to him. His name was Bobby Schaefer. He worked in Harlem. He was a fireman. But I didn't know that. He's telling his friend, oh, I love the new job. It's great. I need it off for 2 weeks. The guys work for me. The people up in Harlem, they're crazy. I love the job. I don't go to work every day. Something like that. So I asked my friend, what does he do for a living? Bing, he says he's a city fireman. And coincidentally, the same weekend, I run into a childhood friend, and he told me about the upcoming fire department test. It was the only civil service test I ever took.
Wow.
And I still stayed in school for a while, up until the end of 72. I knew I did well. I knew I was going to get called, and the magic happened the following year, May 73.
Wow.
What was the starting pay then? Do you remember, Lou?
I don't think it was under 10,000. I mean, as a fourth grade firefighter, it might have been 8,500. But
Wow.
yeah, I still don't know about money. It was the law. It was in college. I learned everything I didn't want to do. I didn't want a 9-to-5 job. I didn't want to get dressed with a suit and tie.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to commute. And then I had no knowledge of anything about the fire department, the hours, where I was going to work. And when I got sent to my first firehouse and found out what it was all about, thank you, God. And that's why I stuck around so long.
Wow. So you got appointed in on 5/19/73.
Say again.
We got Proby picks that.
Oh, do we?
Do it.
Not
Look
the
at
one.
look at this guy.
I knew you were going to throw that one right out of the box.
Come
All
on.
right, so now,
Look at why wouldn't I throw that out of the box? Good Lord.
Wait, that was actually at his other job at Chippendales before he went to a side job.
that was a Proby school shirt. I believe they gave you gray T-shirts, and as you can see, my hair's kind of long. There were really no hair requirements.
I was going to ask you. They didn't ask you to cut your hair.
No, they didn't ask. What you're missing? I sent you a bunch of pictures, and they got lost in the translation. I have a swearing-in picture in a high school. There it is. Okay.
Come on, we don't get lost in the translation.
All right.
We got that one. We have that one.
There I am. Front and center. It's
Hold on, I gotta zoom in on this one. Look at this man right here. What a mane! What a mane on you.
Who's that? Andy Gibb? Get him up! Wow.
While you got that shot up, right behind my right hand, my friend Marty Selleck, who got killed in 1977, July.
Really?
Yeah, which is a story I'll get to. But
another guy with long hair and a big stash. No hair?
Yeah. They might have asked you to trim it down, but there was no hair requirement. And once you got out to the field, there were ponytails, afros, beards, you name it. And they did all that was done away with after the strike.
Wow. We'll get to that.
So you only had a few years doing that.
So you get sworn in and appointed in 73. You go to Proby school. How long was Proby school then?
Proby school was pretty funny. I knew nothing about it. It was Roosevelt Island under construction because they were getting ready. The present buildings that are over there now, they were putting up a lot of residential. So they were squeezing out the fire department. It might have been the last class that they were going to have on Roosevelt Island. It was only 6 weeks. We did a lot of stuff they don't do anymore. But probably the more memorable is here's a mask in a box. That's you had to carry it to the fire if you were going to use it. But
I see it, yeah.
And you didn't see that. You didn't see that again for another 5 years, probably, or something like that, right?
Well, I knew where they were. But yeah,
Look at the boss over your shoulder. He's got his arms crossed like he's watching you.
They were tough. Yeah, the instructors were tough. But Proby School had a smokehouse, which was tantamount to learning what to do in a fire. And it was a brick building with steel shutters and a steel scuttle. And all the construction debris that they could find, they threw in that building and lit it up. They would run you around the building till you got tired. They put you inside, and they waited for you to scream at the right tone, "Venton, ye shall live." And
but you know what, Lou? You're the second guy that I don't know who else said that, Ruffy, that they used to make you run around the building and then put you in the smoke building to see how long you could take it for. Who was who the
Yeah, they wanted
you out of breath and you were just sucking in, right?
They wanted your nose to the floor. Guys threw up. Now they take you away off Randall's Island in an ambulance, but
Yeah.
You just, cleaned yourself up and went back to school.
Yeah, but you're the second guy that said that. Another guy who had around your time frame said the same thing. And they used to run them around the building, and then they would basically lock you in there. See how long you can last.
Basically, yeah.
But I tell you, you guys were some tigers back then.
Hey! This man wants to start the party.
Let's remind everybody what Lieutenant Bruno is drinking there. A little 43, right?
Yeah, let's hold it up. There we go.
Must be nice to have
there
one.
we go.
Hey.
Nice. Look at that. Go easy on that one there, sir.
I haven't been able to touch the whiskey for
Since you threw up in the tent?
Yeah, pretty much. Yikes!
I couldn't feel my face.
Yeah, that was quite a night. That was quite a night. My I was sounding like rough. It was very rough.
Oh, Captain Graham said they used to make you run around a building, then stand up and sing "Happy Birthday." Is what he said.
Don't remember the singing, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen.
No.
Right.
Well,
All right, so
they change different guys going there, right? They teach different things over the years.
Yeah.
One of the older guests, brought up the chief of training, Chief Cahias, one of your former guests, and that rang a bell because he was still the chief of training, but he wasn't well, so he would just basically show up, and they would point to his window somewhere that he's looking at you.
Out of the turret. Yeah.
That was at the Rock. Remember that?
At the Rock. Turret. Yeah. Meanwhile, the guy was probably,
So was up somewhere sleeping.
Allegedly.
So how do you get assigned to 235? Did you have to make any? Who'd you call a fixer? Right, Lou, the fixer we call him.
Yeah, the fixer.
I had no fixer. I couldn't tell you. The only firehouses I knew of near me were 236 and 175. Right down the hill. 175 was on New Jersey Avenue, a single truck.
Yeah.
And I just waited to see what would happen. And I didn't know at the time, but I landed on my feet big time going to 235.
Oh, yeah. So before, how many of the surrounding houses had to burn down before you decided to move out of Brooklyn?
I was on Jefferson Avenue between Bushwick and Evergreen.
Man.
I remember one fire as a kid, and then it went from one fire to a lot of sirens all the time, and that's when the family decided it's time to go out to the country, East New York.
And then you stayed in East New York for how long before you moved out of there?
I stayed there till 76.
Wow.
I was actually laid off while I lived there in East New York. And just to segue a little bit, which I don't understand how I did it, I was laid off, a bus driver, which we'll get into.
Yeah, guys talked about that too.
And that's when I bought my house. I had a real job again.
And so you get assigned to 235, right? What you had told me, you sent me this. Was this in 235 when you walked in? What did that guy say to you?
All right.
This is great.
It's an old firehouse, single engine. The 5-7 battalion was in quarters. I'm 21 years old. I'm in Bed-Stuy. I'm shaking. And thank God the first guy I met, he was an old timer. He was very good to me. And he stuck out his hand. He says, "Kid, welcome to the fire department. It's a great job. You'll never get laid off. You'll never go on strike, and there'll never be women on the job."
Wow. Leg one. Leg two. Straight to me. You're out.
All my years after with the kitchen and all of, the never, it'll never, I always used to tell that story.
Yeah,
that's the door from the rig that I worked in as a lad in 235, and it's hanging in my garage.
How'd you get a hold of that, allegedly?
Well, that's another story.
Oh, all right.
Hey.
I'm in 123 now as a fireman. What they used to do with the rigs, once they started going out of service, they would just put them in somebody's quarters where there was room. And what would happen over time, if the mechanics needed a part, they would come to quarters and just take it off the rig. So most of them were just hunks of steel, and they were not serviceable. So the guys in 123 knew I had my roots in 235. The rig's in quarters, and it's a good night. A lot of fires. We're up all night, and they thought I should take a souvenir. So I'm like, what? There's fitting. There's nothing with the name on it. How So that's kind of how we left off. The next morning, it's in my car.
The brothers.
And I left home with it. I went home and hung it up. And the rig got taken out of quarters. Nobody said, "Where's the door?"
Didn't even ask where the door is.
Was it the driver's side?
No, they used to strip the
rigs.
rigs.
The officer's side, at least.
They would strip the rigs.
Oh,
wow, that's
God.
great. All right, so here's the question.
Drive it out of there?
What happened to the door? Don't ask. Don't worry about it.
Don't ask.
Don't ask. Rapid water. Don't ask.
I got, as an officer in 289, it had to be, after 9/11, I got a call from downtown, and they asked me if I had any rapid water documents or any training bulletins in the firehouse. So they probably thought nobody was alive anymore that worked with rapid water. So the first thing I said, "Chief, you're kidding. They're thinking of bringing that back." So now I kind of told them I worked with it. It didn't work then. They says, "Yeah, they're just looking at options if Manning becomes a problem."
All right, so here's the question we ask everybody.
Yeah. How long did it take you to catch your first job?
How long did it take when you walked in the door before you caught your first job? You work a night tour or a day tour? 2 hours.
Day up, 2 hours. And what made it special, in Proby school, Dennis Smith, who's another one of your guests, he came out with a report from Engine Company 82. Mm-hmm. So we were all reading it in Proby school. So now I'm in the firehouse. It's 9 o'clock. I learned that we're going out on buildings. There was a covering officer. Now that I know, I didn't know this back then, a covering officer, Lieutenant Rehired from 217. A very intimidating figure. The first time I see him, because the guys wrote out the riding list. I didn't see the officer till we go out. He had dark glasses on. We're on BI. He hands the cards to me. And we go do our thing. So now, 10:30, 11 o'clock, we're on the rig. We get called over to the rig. We got a box. Now, we rode the back step then. There was no riding inside. And we also had at least 6 guys working, and sometimes 7, because there was a lot of double groups. And we're all stuffing in the back step. So we're going on our run, and I remembered the line from Dennis Smith that you could see it before you could smell it. And a lot of things I don't remember. The box was 664. We were second due, and I just stared at it. There was a lot going on. Every engine company back then grabbed their own line. So there was 209, 217, 235. Everybody's grabbing their own line. And I just remember all the fire that I saw at the window, top floor, 3-story building, the saw, the noise of the store, looking inside, looking up at the sky. I did absolutely nothing. all I did, I'm like, this is nothing like I ever saw in my life. And everybody was organized. Everybody was organized in what they did. And the guys knew I was going to be useless for a while. So I just watched. And then, I got a little involved later with maybe washing down, taking up hose. And there was a couple of jobs after during the tour also. Maybe not all hands, but a 2 and 2 was a good size fire, but it never went to an all hands. And when I got home that night, I thought it was in good shape. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I got to do something to take care of myself. And I started to run a little bit more.
Did they? How long before they gave you the pipe in 235?
That was a challenge. You may have gotten it on paper, but you're all on the back step, regardless what the officer said. The senior guys, they took it. One of my best senior guys, Jimmy Robertson, who I'd just like to talk a little bit about because he's my man. If he had the nozzle, he would give it to me, that kind of thing. But I would dare not say, turn to one of the guys. Well, the officer made me the nozzle man tonight,
Could you imagine that today, Rick? Could you imagine that today?
No,
my God, it's so funny, man.
Well, I got, all right, this is what I'm going to avoid, but just a little blurb. As an officer at 289, I had a kid come to me. he was late. The guy's covered for him. And later in the tour, right, he said, blah, blah. What happened? How come you showed late? He's 28 years old. He said, my mother forgot to wake me up. I said, blah, blah. Even if it's true, never say that to anybody again.
Out loud.
Not here.
Yeah, so, I mean, I had my fill. There was enough fires. Again, the 2-2s, one engine, one floor, one truck, one floor. You could have a floor of fire. There's an old TV drill, Everybody Goes, from 1974. E.G. Marshall does the narration of it. It's the day in the life of 209 and 102.
Really?
I have a
I've seen that. I've seen that.
Yeah, I have a cameo.
Okay, see if you can find that.
I'm in there's our first job of the day. Actually, in the video or in the show, you see the door, 235 door open. They were pumping water. That's the door in my garage. But we had a job with 209 and 102. Lieutenant Spillane, who was a lieutenant in 102 at the time, it was his friend that hooked him up. He ended up the captain at 289. So we're done with that job. We get another job on the air, Fulton and something, and now they're panning. And you see the burn marks on 2 windows of the second floor. You see about 5 feet of overhaul material on the sidewalk. You see all the guys coming out blackened, no mask. That was a 2-2. And Spillane goes right over to the rig, 102 to Brooklyn K with 10-8. So, the younger people would ask me, "It didn't take time?"
Hi.
No, they didn't take time.
Wow.
I just saw that actually, and I seen him say that actually that with 10-8 were available.
Yeah, with 10-8 were available.
Wow, that's.
So let's quickly Jimmy Robinson. With stretching the story just a little bit, Jimmy was a senior man, 32 years old, which at me was very old. But he taught me everything right about the job. His son is lieutenant now. I just saw him the other day. Wonderful kid, probably 50 years old, but wonderful kid. And Jimmy taught me everything right. And the connection, which I'll have later, one of Jimmy's lieutenants was Garrity, the Garrity father, Stephen Ed Garrity's father, who was a lieutenant 235 and ended up in a basement at a job and then out of the job. But that was where Lieutenant Richie Hamilton, who wrote the book 10,000 Alarms, and a fireman and rescue too, Bill Polera, they went down the hole, they got Garrity out. So he was done. He was gone before I got there, but a lot of what he knew, he passed on to Jimmy, that he passed on to me. At the end of my career, when I ended up at The Rock, Steve Garrity's there, and I knew him from 111. And I said, wow, what a connection. Your father helped me at the beginning of my career without really knowing he was helping me. And here you are now at the end of my career, where another Garrity's helping me out.
Wow. That is pretty cool. So
Steve, Steve's not, he's ill these days, so I wish him the best.
Who was the captain in 235 when you got there?
Captain, very young captain, I think barely 30 years old, Joe Mills. He ended up assistant commissioner at some point, but he was another good guy that he taught you all the right things, had the right personality for the men, for the fires. He cut his teeth in 231 and 120 with Richie Hamilton, Ed Wetzel, just a bunch of old-time stars that were there. And he did well for himself. I think he rose to deputy chief. But only because this came up recently with Tommy Richardson becoming chief of department and John Hodgins chief of operations. John Hodgins' father was one of my first lieutenants. And he too was a star. And he rose quickly in the department, to staff level. But in that 6 degrees of separation, my God, it's less than 6 degrees with the fire department and all the people that are connected.
Everybody you just said, I worked with all of their sons. Every person you did, Wetzel, right? I mean, all of those guys.
Dan Wetzel, right? Dan Wetzel, right?
Yeah. I've worked with everyone at Hodges. I worked with every one of those guys' sons.
One of the other officers, he was a handful, but a couple, I think Calamari mentioned him. A couple of people had mentioned him. Mel Harper. He was a 120 guy. He's Lieutenant 235. Oh my God. Oh my God. Beyond words. And you don't know any better, so you do whatever your officer tells you. And he was very conscious of working safe, but never a mask, never laying back, balls to the wall all the time.
No shit.
And he was a lieutenant, I think, 20 years in 235 before he moved on.
Wow.
So you never saw any fire?
No, none, really.
Before we move on to
Can you
another
imagine?
company, I mean, the uniqueness of 235 also, that part of Brooklyn, a lot of single engines. And the nearest trucks, you asked me before about one story to tell. So I'll wrap it up with Gansey, and then you could move me on if you want, all right? So 235 was unique in that it was alone. And 102 and 111, those are our trucks. And they're
Right.
out all the time.
Right.
So we were very focused on forcible entry as a 6-man, sometimes 7-man company. And one of the engine assignments was the can and the irons, because you never knew if you were going to be alone or not. So that was a good way of getting a little taste of what truck work is like. But you did probation only for 6 months total. So by November, or around November, I'm off probation. And I'm eligible for my first detail. My first detail is to 111. And it was a day tour, and I'm scared because that's a show in itself. The characters in 111. So I get the can, and who's got the irons? Pete Gansey. And about 9:15, the box comes in. It was the first new job, brownstone. And Pete had said to me early, stay with me. Usually the officer, it could have been a covering officer, so I don't know.
Right.
But Pete said, just stay with me, kid. And I just followed him all over. I don't know what I was doing, but oh my God, this is the first time I've been off a hose line. It opened up a whole new world of like what goes on in a fire.
Right.
So that's
There was some crazy guys when you were there. I
mean,
mean, when you were in the engine there was so many guys in 111, right? I mean,
well, another
all those big names, man, big names.
Well, the other thing too, another thing, in the firehouse, when you got an alarm, it was bells they did for part of the day tour. They still used the bells. Then they would fall back on the voice alarm system. But compared to now, sitting at the house watch, getting everybody on the assignment, where you're going, what the dangers are. I mean, it's an encyclopedia. All you got back then was the bells, and you'd have to count them, and then look at the running board.
Address, right? That's it.
No, not the address. You look at the
box number
board.
that gave you the address.
The
right?
box number. No, not yet. That's it. The box number, you're on the rig. When they would go to the voice alarm, you would hear box 938. I remember that because that was 235's home box. Box 938, Nostrand and Monroe, units assigned, acknowledge. So they don't even tell you that you're going. So as a young kid, you got to look. If you were first due, the first number was red. If you were second due, green. Third due, black. All right? So there was a lot of thought.
I didn't know that. A
lot of thought that went on. So now
while you're running to the rig.
Now you're on the back step. So any radio transmission, address information,
you're not hearing
only
that.
the officer and chauffeur have it. You don't have it. You don't figure it out till you get there.
Wow, that's a different perspective, right, man?
Yeah, I didn't realize that they had the first number was a different color like that to give you.
And in 235, well, they had the running board and they had the 25-man chart, which was a wheel. So that they could rotate the wheel, who was on the
right, who had to watch and all that stuff.
That came out of 235. That was a WNYF article. I don't remember
Is that
the guy
right?
who put it together, but that was theirs.
Because that was in every firehouse. Either they had the box, the slats that they would move from the bottom to the top.
Yeah, or the wheel would tell if it was on a detail.
This was the wheel. This was the wheel.
No shit. Was how long were you 235 for?
2 years. Back to the wackos. One wacko. Everybody always worked with the same guys all the time. There were no mutuals. All right, so you saw the same knuckleheads all the time. And my knuckleheads in 111, God bless them, Dennis Conway.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Oh my goodness, I'll tell you Dennis in a second. There was a guy called Happy Jack. I don't remember his whole name. There was a Bobby Schaefer there, I believe.
Yeah, there was Bobby Schaefer there.
Yeah. And then it gets foggy. Gansey, I work with once in a while, because the groups would be offset just a little bit. But I work with Pete a lot.
Did you see Haid? Was Haid there? Chief Haid?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't know all I didn't know all the officers in the firehouse. It was just the guys that you saw.
Dennis
when
Murphy
you were
was it? Was Kent Murphy there then? Cool.
No, there was.
No, not in the 70s.
It might come to me. Tersolino. That was the captain of 111 back in '73. Tersolino. But Dennis Conway, now one of his details to 235. I don't know the guy. I'm on watch. He walks right past me. He goes into the kitchen. I hear noise. Banging and yelling. So I lean out. What's going on? There was an older fireman, but not too old. Ray Tricarico. Not as big as Dennis. Dennis has him over his lap and is kissing him on the mouth. And oh my God.
Okay.
Oh my God. I'm getting raped.
Is that Tony Tricarico's father, Ray Tricarico?
Ray Tricarico got laid off and never returned to the fire department.
It's got to be relation. There ain't too many Tricaricos.
When we talked to Dennis Smith, he would talk about how the nozzle man and the backup would never take a mask, but usually the door and control guy would take a mask in case it was longer. But did you guys, anybody ever bring a mask, or was that
before? No. If you were first new, never.
That's incredible.
Yeah, pretty much never. There wasn't, because everything was in that big box in a compartment. So it took too much time. Everybody was on the back step. Everybody wanted a piece of the line. I kind of remember towards the end of '75, before I got laid off, they tried putting some kind of bracket in the jump seat so the mask is there and whoever's riding in it. Because if we had 7 guys working, not everybody could be on the back step. So then they started, all right, if you can, put the mask on. And that was the old mask that looked like an ant. It just had two pieces of plexiglass to cover the eyes.
Imagine.
Yeah, and a hose, and it wasn't positive pressure. So you had to really suck on it if you wanted to get anything. And it weighed a ton. They were all steel bottles.
Yeah. Yep.
That's probably why nobody wanted to take them.
It's so funny too when you watch things evolve, right? Even with the cameras, when we first got the cameras, right? How big the camera was to what it is now, right? They make little, but like everything has evolved. Now the mask is so light. It's lighter than it was. I mean, for you probably thinking back from what it was to what you're wearing now, and guys complaining now, you'd be like, "Are you guys kidding me?"
But that's the nature of. Right. If you've never seen it, it's a great poster. Chief Steve Sullivan had it hanging in his office when he was chief of training. It's a picture of a firehouse kitchen, and the text on it, there's 2 things firemen hate. 1, change. 2, the way things are.
Yeah.
Another shirt. Hold on a minute.
It is true. I've heard that. That's really great. That is absolutely true. Absolutely true.
A lot of people don't realize how many guys actually got hurt riding on the back step. You ever work in a night where somebody got hurt or something was thrown at them, or?
Well, what we, guys got banged up on their shins because you would hit a bump or something and lose your balance, and the other guys are there to grab you. Nobody was going to fall off. But one of your guests talked about the batteries, carrying the batteries on the rig to throw at the car. Yeah, we had a bag of old batteries. Because as soon as some asshole would, get right on your bumper while you're responding, you'd grab it, and throw it down at the car.
I always wondered where that came from to keep 200 feet back. Where did that number come from? Who? I mean, obviously, at some point, somebody, there had to be an accident or something where the fire department adopted that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know the story behind that one, but something went wrong.
All right.
Somebody came up with an arbitrary number, and they went with it.
Yeah. I bet you Chief Kleehouse probably knows that. I bet you. We'll get him to answer that one.
Well, he could always make something up too. Who knows?
Yeah. We'll believe him. It doesn't even matter.
We'll believe him.
All right, so let's go to 2 years in 235, and then
layoff. All right.
the layoff comes.
So no, before the layoff, the strike. Let's do the strike quickly.
All right.
So November 1973, there was a contractual dispute. They talked about a strike. I paid no attention to any of that because I'm a Proby. I'm 21 years old. I don't know anything about the union. And I worked November 4th night tour. The strike was November 5 of 73. And we had a lot of fires that night. We ended up fifth alarm in Brownsville. So now I don't think we got back to quarters till about 8:30 in the morning. And everybody was at the firehouse because there was talk of a strike. And the only way we found out about it was they put on 10-10 winds. And the winds, just after 9 o'clock, they started reporting that it looks like, the FDNY is on strike. But to find out, they opened up the circuit for the voice alarm in the city, and they did a roll call. So you heard, engine 1, are you in service? They would say no. Engine 3, are you in service? So they went through. Yeah, that's
Wow.
how they knew, I guess, the shit's on. And our delegate, Steve Joyer, who's a wonderful man, not with us anymore, he talked it over with the guys. There were other Probies in 235, but nobody was working but me. Nobody told me to go sick. All they said is, we don't know what's going to happen to you. You might get fired. You better work. So 235 stayed in service with some other members who chose not to strike. We left quarters like immediately, and now we start running around Brooklyn. There's an audio. If you go, I just saw it tonight because it used to be on the Hartford Fire Department website, which I can't find anymore. But there's on YouTube, 1973 FDNY strike. There's an audio about, I don't know, a day's worth or half a day's worth. And you could hear jobs were happening immediately. And I don't want to say the guys were torching buildings, but probably the guys were torching buildings. Because it was just one
Allegedly.
after the other.
Yeah.
And allegedly. And we're just getting sent, you hear battalion chiefs, I need a second alarm. And chief, I can give you one engine. It just was crazy. So now my moment of when I knew it was over, I know where the firehouse is now, 102 and 209. We're on Bedford Avenue. We get surrounded by the rig, by the guys that were picketing.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you, Rick. Like, how did that go over when you kept working? And I mean, how did that go over?
Well, the guys at 235, I would do whatever they wanted me to do. They said, you might get fired. We talked about it. Go to work. All right? Okay. So that's why they were able to man the rig. There were other senior men that decided, we're going to work. Because that was the mentality. You don't strike. You're a fireman. You don't strike. And that was one of the first steps that destroyed this job, because lifetime friendships, if you were on the wrong side of the strike.
Yeah, politics, right? Politics.
Yeah, that was it. So on that audio that's on YouTube, I don't remember the officer, but you hear him calling Brooklyn, urgent. We need PD immediately. We're being attacked. I didn't hear that transmission, but I'm in the rig, and I just remember the guys pounding. We were inside it. We weren't riding on the back step. They're pounding on the rig. We're going to kill you. We're going to remember who you are. We're going to kill you.
Jeez,
I must have got like 3 blocks back to quarters, I jumped off the rig. I said, I don't care. I'm going to die. I don't care if I get fired. So the other guys that were working with me, they also chose at that time, that's it. We're done. We're gonna walk. So 2:35 was out, and it only lasted from 9 a.m. to about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then that was it. The strike was over, and everybody went back to work. And that then, as punishment, is when they started under the guise of mask safety, no beards, no big mustaches, no afros, no long hair. Yeah. That's what I came from.
Let me ask you this, Rick, because I don't know the history here and the timeline. So before that point, is that when it was you couldn't strike, or we could never strike from the get-go?
I guess the Taylor law was still in effect. There was a law that you were not entitled to strike.
Right.
And I think it was a bit of a cluster mess afterwards, trying to figure out which Probies worked, which Probies didn't work, which Probies were on medical leave, which Probies were on their regular leave. because they wanted to fine you like 2 days' pay. And I think some guys did get fined for walking, and some guys fell between the cracks.
Right.
Did anybody get fired?
No, not from the strike. No.
That came later when they laid you off.
Well, the city's very slow to move.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So the guy gave you the first advice. Rule number 1. That's shut.
And that was the
Check.
first one.
We
Out the
don't
window.
never strike. Never go on strike. Check. All right.
All right. Rule number 2.
All right, comes number 2. All right, number 2. There was talk of it. What they did is, if you had any leave coming, vacation time, they wanted you to take it before June 30th. If the strike came, or not the strike, if the layoffs happened, and for some reason you couldn't take your time, they were going to pay you for it. But it was actually a pink slip. I remember Captain Mills. He was in tears because he never thought it was going to happen. And that was one of the first times this job made me cry, where I left quarters with a pink slip, and
Wow.
I drove home, and I don't remember how close I was to the June 30th date that I'm not going back to the firehouse, but that letter, which I thought I sent to you, I still have the original termination letter from O'Hagan that thank you for your work, but we don't need you anymore. And that first week, I'm guessing about 3,000 guys got laid off.
3,000 guys.
Yeah, they went up to about 8 years. If you had military time,
Wow.
that kind of helped you out.
I didn't know that.
But the first few days, they realized they couldn't do it. O'Hagan had a dream of running the department on 11,500 guys or 12,500 guys, something like that. And we were way over. We were close to 14,000. So I think that's what they laid off, and they realized we can't do it.
Right.
So they started hiring guys back right away. But I
Well,
think
that's what I was going to say, Rick. When you got that letter, you thought, like, did the captain say to you, "Hey, listen, man, this is going to turn around in a couple, it could be 6 months, could be a year, could be 2 weeks," or did he say, "Listen, good luck in your life and take care"?
No. Firemen and firehouses, they couldn't be better. There were a lot of young guys, and every firehouse did something. Either they made collections and send you some money every week, or they would do something. They felt your pain. So nobody was left on their own.
Did you feel like you were going to get the job back, or you didn't?
I don't know if I was just so preoccupied and disgusted, like, oh my God, I had a young family, there was a lot on in play at that time in my life. But I remember as it got closer with rumors of coming back to work, there was all these different programs over the course of a year to find funding so they could hire some guys back. Money just for a truck company to do salvage work, all these little gimmicks. So you had an idea that it'll happen someday, but you really never knew when. And I was out a whole year and a half. I think there were guys that were close to 2 years before they got called back, but they called everybody back at some point.
So they called you. They called you back in seniority order. That's how.
Yeah, the way you got laid off, that's how you got hired back. Yeah.
Wow.
And tell us about this.
So that's come back to me a second.
Okay.
Come. Where? You can see. All right. So this is where those pictures come from. So it's I have at least 4 pages here. You could see. I mean, there's a lot. There's
Those
a lot
are all
of
the
names.
names of all the
There's
guys.
a lot going on. All right. There's a lot going on in these. All right. I don't think I have them all, but this was the layoff. This was reduced manning. This was closing companies. And what I just realized earlier today, looking through it, this was a lift order too. Hundreds of guys were lifted because most of the younger guys that got laid off were in busy companies.
Was Lou on that list, or?
Yeah, I'm on.
Wow.
So a lot of the older guys that were set in their ways, they got lifted.
And they were sent to busy places. That must have made them real happy.
Yeah.
Wow. Holy mackerel.
That's crazy.
How many companies did they close? Do you know about?
I know I was in the 17th Division. I remember the 17th Division closed. Here we go. 17th Division, 60th Battalion, 59th Battalion, 29th Battalion, Marine Division. I don't know if actual companies got closed at that time.
And they never reopened those, obviously.
Yeah, that was it.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean,
Somebody
it's
just
a recipe
wrote
for total disaster.
O'Hagan's Revenge. Somebody wrote. Jake Wixter wrote that. O'Hagan's Revenge. Ruffy, I don't know if you saw that.
And so I'm sorry, but strike two. That also changed the job dramatically.
Hold on, I got to check on my paper. Here's strike two coming up. Strike two. There'll never be a strike. You'll never get laid off. Strike one, strike two. I don't know if you saw somebody answered your question how they came up with that 200 feet back, Ruffy.
Oh, I didn't see it. No.
Yeah, they said that's as far as you could throw a battery, about 200 feet.
I don't know. Some guys got some good arms back there, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. All right, so you get laid off in June of 75, and then you get rehired in a manpower pool on Christmas Eve. Manpower pool, rather. On Christmas Eve of 1976. Now, did you know how long in advance did they tell you you're coming back on Christmas Eve?
You're going to wonder, like, how crazy is this man that he stuck around 43 years? All right, so part of being laid off.
He's crazy, obviously.
Part of being laid off, Dick Vinzini, who was our UFA leader, I think I have the time frame right. His brother was some sort of union connection in the MTA before it was the MTA up in the Bronx and Manhattan. It was the Manhattan and Bronx Transit Authority, MAPSTOA. That was a separate entity. So all Bronx and Manhattan buses. They got us jobs driving buses. So that would have been in the spring of 76. So I went from being an iron worker. That's how I was like helping myself out. I needed something more legit. And I became a bus driver. I went up to Harlem, Amsterdam and 129. That was a depot. What I'd like to give credit to, or who I'd like to give credit to, we were firemen without jobs that took a lot of jobs and overtime away from the bus drivers by showing up. They could not have been nicer to us. It was wonderful. Firemen got in accidents all the time. Driving, that's another show. And the craziness of it, if you got in an accident, you would go to see the shop steward, the union shop steward in the depot. You didn't deal with the transit authority people. You deal with the union. As soon as you walked in and whatever violation you got for damage or running somebody over, hitting a car, a cab, oh, you're a fireman? Get out of here. And they'd leave you alone. Wow. So now I'm driving a bus. I have a legit job. I have my first child. I buy a house. Life isn't too bad. I'm laid back waiting to get hired from the fire department. Thanksgiving Eve of 1976, I got a call from Dick Vinzini, and it was, Rick, great, we got money. You're going to get hired back. All right, great. What do I have to do? Well, it's not in writing, but to qualify for this money, you have to be unemployed for 30 days. So I think I hear what he's telling me. I got to quit driving a bus and hope, like, in the next 30 days I get hired.
Yeah, right.
I remember crying again, hanging up. He's calling me back. No, it's good. I'm telling you. So I don't know how my wife let me, with a new house and a new baby.
That's a spicy meatball with a house.
Yeah, man.
I quit. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited. I got one phone call. I think I lost myself. I got one phone call, and it was to go downtown to sign some papers, which I did. And no retraining, nothing. I think 2 or 3 days before Christmas Eve, I got the call, welcome back, report to the 11th Division in the quarters of 229 and 146. I got my shit out of mothballs for whatever I could find. I haven't touched it in a year and a half.
And
I show up at 229 and 146 Christmas Eve. It was snowing. And the guys are like, welcome back, welcome back. 6:15, second alarm on arrival by 2:16 and 108.
Yep.
So I don't even know if the officer told me like you're working in the truck, you're working in the engine. Both
Just jumped on a
companies knew
rig,
they were
right?
going. They said just get on the rig.
That's it.
So I get on the rig. I'm happy as a pig in shit, and I see the smoke and everything. So now we pull up, and it was a couple of vacant buildings. So I remember the boss telling me, just grab a box, the mask box, and go to the front of the building. So I did that. So now I realize I haven't looked at this thing in a very long time. And there was a whole song and dance to open the lid, put your helmet here, your gloves here, grab this strap with the left hand, this strap with the right hand. I'm just staring at the box. I didn't know where to start. So I feel a tap on my shoulders, and who buffed the job? Dennis Conway. And hey, Rick, well, welcome back. Blah, da, da, da. And that's the last of my memory. We just talked, and the fire went out. So
Wow,
that's
crazy. And then I stayed there. I pretty much stayed in that house, but I didn't have a company yet until the next transfer order the following February.
So when you walk into the firehouse, did you feel like what were the feelings or the emotions going on as you walked in? You're like,
I was so low that if they hire me back as the worst job in the fire department, I don't care if you want me washing every apparatus floor, whatever. I just want to get back.
Right.
I mean, I just want to get back. So,
but that night that you walked in, what was the feeling? What were the emotions like when you walked in?
I'm sure. Like my heart, beat fast all night. I don't remember much on the night tour after that job, but I didn't get not working in the fire department like one day in layoffs. When we were driving buses, you would pass another fireman, like passing you. You both would stop, lean out the window. What did you hear? Anybody going back? And that's all it was every day.
Right. Crazy. Now, what about if you're driving a bus and you see the fire truck going down the street? You're like, oh man.
Oh yeah. It's after 5 years in retirement. I'm almost now like getting that out of my system. Turning my head. But I would stop. One of my routes was Broadway, going from 125th Street up to the Bronx. So a few times. I mean, I didn't really give a shit if I got fired. I had a little bit of an attitude, and I didn't want to be a bus driver. I did my best, but I didn't want to be there. And I would just pull over with people on the bus, just to check out the job.
You'd be buffing it out.
They kept ringing the bell.
They ringing the bell. Bing, bing.
Yeah, I would ignore it. I could see people starting like spinning around.
Like looking around, like what's going on?
Something happened. Yeah.
Wow.
So did you ever feel like you wanted to, like, you couldn't get back to 235? Like there was no chance of trying to get back?
I was going to ask you.
Joe, all right. A lot of guys went back to their houses. A lot of guys went back to their battalion. A lot of guys went back to their division. It was all driven by manpower. So Joe Mills, who had a lot of weight at the time, he could not get one of us back to 235. There might have been like about 5 or 6 of us laid off from there. Not one guy could get back. And I didn't have any hooks. But I think I called somebody in the union. They might have been interested about, what do you want to do? We're looking for companies. And I said, well, I know I can't go back to 235. I want to try a double house. Give me a busy double house. And I ended up in Red Hook.
131.
131. Now, I tell you, the 4 houses you guys that I've been in, if you have one of those houses in your career, you're blessed. I had 4 of them. And I appreciate that every day. And probably because of all the people I got to meet and work with.
Oh, yeah.
Now, 131 was a little bit of an odd story in that I knew nothing about that part of Brooklyn. It had a lot of health issues in that building before it became the cancer house years later. But what was unique to that house was 3 things had happened. Young guys now were coming back after the layoff, so they're getting new blood. It was a like 117 and 263, Louis, with the wall. They had just taken the wall down. but the attitude was still truck and engine. All right. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
the influx of new blood helped with that.
And that was the same in 117. That was the same, and 263, same thing.
I know. I worked there covering.
Yeah.
My first tour as an officer was 263, actually.
Is that right?
Which is another little funny story if I get to it. But so the wall came down, but the big whoop was in January '76. There was a line of duty death, Charlie Sanchez, and it was really bad. It was an AMP fire on Atlantic and Court. 279 and 131 had gone in on the first floor. The fire was in the basement, and the floor collapsed. So a lot of both companies ended up in the basement. A lot of guys got their 3/4. They couldn't come back to the job. One guy, Charlie Sanchez, they couldn't find him, and he ended up dying. The guy I want to talk about that I got to work with, Joe Kennington. He was a fireman in 131. He was right next to Charlie when the floor started to go. Charlie didn't make it. This is about street smarts that you can't teach, all right? On the way running for your life out the door, Joe had the presence of mind to count off how many steps it took to get to the front door. So now it's a while later, and they realize we can't find Charlie. So Joe hears this. He says, I know exactly where he is. What had happened in the basement was a storeroom that used to have a door. They blocked up the door. So every time they were looking in the basement, they'd come to a wall. And Joe was like, no, he's got to be on the other side. And they breached the wall, but it was already too late.
Oh, shit.
And, how do you teach somebody that?
You don't.
You don't.
Nope.
Was, who do we have on? Jerry Sanford, was he there? In 131 at the time?
Jerry had just. I knew Jerry. I saw him the other night. He was gone by the time I got there, but he was still coming around. That we got to be friends.
Cool.
Now, what went on in this photo here at 131?
This was the clusterfuck. From what I remember, I think we had a photographer with us that ended up going, I guess, across the street or whatever. And I'm somewhere on the roof. That could be me. It could be somebody else. Probably the more obvious thing, no mask. And there was an oil truck parked in the street, on a narrow street. So as we're pulling up, I don't remember if we were first or second due, we realized we can't even get close to the building because behind the oil truck, there was another truck that couldn't make it through, and then the cars. So, we got to be like a football field away. So we take off, and the building that's next to it, I think I had the roof, probably had the roof. It was a vacant that had a ton of fires in there. There's stairs missing, there's floors missing, everything is missing. So we were able to get up there, but it didn't look like that at all. And, once it took off, and it took off because the same problem the truck had with access, the engine had, getting the hydrant, getting the lines in place. So everything that usually goes pretty smoothly, nothing worked. So this also, I think we made a little bit of a learning event. No, not trench. They were just coming up with a pilot program for harnesses for guys that you would put on over your jeans, and we hadn't got, and you got, I think, like a little 40-foot or 30-foot rope with a hook and a plate on the end of it. So the best you could do is is slide off and get
and stop. You had to stop
down to your plate and then stop.
You wouldn't plummet to your death.
Oh boy!
So
okay.
I think at this time we were just figuring like, what are we going to do? Going down the building or the way we came up is probably going to be just as bad as where we are. So, and that's all I remember from that.
Yeah, we
one.
didn't do so good there, huh?
Pete, do we have any other pictures from 131 before we? No. That's it. All right. So here's the question. Go.
This I thought of this before with the 200-foot thing.
Right.
This is a classic. If it really happened, and it probably did. This is 131 in the 1960s with the wall down the middle, big card playing house, and the kitchen's on the apparatus floor in the back. So there's a knock at the door, and then a louder knock at the door. And the guy that was on watch is playing cards, and you lean back in the chair, and he yelled out because the gentleman let himself in. "What can I do for you, Pop?" Well, Pop turned out to be the fire commissioner.
Holy shit!
Okay.
And this is a Sunday in the wintertime. 279 and 131 got sent to the Rock. And if you remember, probably a little bit more, the Rock used to be a punishment. When they sent you there, they made you do evolution. I mean, they did it to break your balls.
Jump through ropes,
right?
There was a certain chief that we
that
knew
allegedly is where it came from that incident. That
No
after
shit.
they had the two of them out all day on Sunday, and somebody thought, "Wow, this is a good way to break balls."
Yeah, because in the end, like you said, most guys don't like to get relocated, right? Because you want to stay.
You want to go out to the Rock and do evolutions the whole Sunday?
Really? Yeah,
you don't want to leave your place.
They broke their balls all day.
They figured that out.
Hey, we had a song. We had a song about that. A certain chief would send you to the Rock if your overtime was high.
Yeah. And if you wore white socks, you know that
or if you wear white socks,
you were going to the Rock.
Yep.
My goodness.
All right. So now we'll ask the question. So you're there from 76 to
1980,
80, right? Why 123 truck?
Well, I wanted to get back to the neighborhood.
Right.
I had two spots in mind that I was thinking about. I love 131. 131 ship fires. I had 3 ship fires. The heavy industrial. We would go to jobs in factories that we would stare at all the different color smoke. And like ooh and there was no hazmat.
I was just gonna say before there was a hazmat.
I mean, you name the poisonous factory.
Purpley orange smoke, isn't that?
Oh, yeah, look at that.
So there just was a lot of different things going on. The city had a wonderful project on Columbia Street, about a half a mile of sewer excavation gone wrong, and half the buildings collapsed. They used to be shored up in the basement with 12 by 12s. They all became vacant over time, and there were a lot of fires there on Columbia Street. This is 123. All right, there's a bunch of guys here I want to point out.
I thought this was the shirts versus skins game. I don't know.
This is after a softball game up on the deck over the apparatus doors. You got Tommy Galvin on the top row on the left, Chief Galvin.
Wow. To the left a little bit, Petey. Yeah.
Okay.
You got some pipes there. What are you doing?
Yeah. All right. That's I'm under him with the bottle of beer. That's me.
No.
Yeah, that's me. I had the gray going.
You had the hair, yeah. You got a couple of
hair going there.
Go, stay in the top row and move it to the right, and you'll see Garrett Lindgren.
Where?
Keep going.
There he is. He's right behind the black dude up on the top. That's him in the back,
him.
right?
That's him.
Hey.
He's not in the chat tonight. Usually he's in the chat, Garrett.
And then 2 guys over from Garrett, that's John Moran.
Oh, that is Moran.
Oh, Chief Moran.
Yes.
Right under John Moran with the mustache, that's Jack Toomey. He got killed in 1987, December of 87.
Wow.
And Joe Pfeiffer. He's to the right of the black guy, Dick Webb. Next to the guy, he's got his arm around a guy next to him. That's Joe Pfeiffer.
Oh yeah. Who's the dude with the tie on? Is that the captain? What?
That's Bob Lowe, hardcore 11 truck guy, wonderful mentor, and he's the inspiration for one of my tips of the day.
All right,
nice.
We'll get to that.
I like it.
But you still haven't answered the question.
Oh,
why 123 trucks?
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. So I had an interview with Tough Tommy Adamo in 176, and he pretty much tossed me out because I didn't have them first. I had 123, 176. So I had time. I had
He
8
took it
years.
personal.
Nothing personal. I think he said to me, "We don't do drugs, we don't drink, and you didn't pick me number one. Have a nice day."
All right. He was honest.
All right. Which I'll tie into a Vinnie Fowler story later if I get to it. Anyway, so now I'm in 131. We had a wonderful fireman and officers. We got one officer that was a little different. And he got to the point where he was becoming embarrassing to the company. He was on his way out of the job. He didn't want to go on fires. And the members started to complain to the captain, and then it went to the battalion, and nobody's listening to us. So after a company party one day, the members agree that the only way we're going to get anything done here is if we all put our papers in. All right, I'm on board with that. So we finish our party. We go back to the next set of tours. It's probably in the middle of the week for me. I'm asking all my friends, so where did you go? Well, I didn't put a paper in. Where did you go? I didn't put a paper in. I was the only guy to put a paper in. And it was like, oh yeah, fuck me, fuck you. You know, and that was bad. I mean,
My word.
I still love the guys.
Does anybody hold on to their word? Anybody, for
No,
God's
but
sake?
I was the only guy.
Holy
I was
shit.
the only guy that had the paper in. And that's how I ended up in 123.
Well, it wasn't a bad shop there.
No, I mean,
Great
it was
place.
time. You know, it was time anyway, so it worked out.
Yeah, it worked out all right. Yeah, 123 truck. And what year did you get there?
80, right?
80, and then I got promoted in 88.
Wow,
Yeah,
8 years.
so you caught a few fires there in 8 years, I would say.
A lot less vacant than I thought. A lot of occupied.
Right.
I think while I was there, you know, most of the years they were number one in the city at the time with occupied fires. You know, even though that the food and the stove and all of those are thrown in.
Yeah.
We had a nice pace of work.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of guys that passed on 9/11, Walter Hines, Pete Martin.
Yep.
I'm going to forget somebody, but you know, it was always a good company. It was a little rough around the edges when they were on Ralph Avenue. It was a different world then, but you know, when they moved in with 234, things settled down. That the black guy that you saw on the deck, that's Dick Webb. He's the quintessential fireman, highway cop, Marine Corps.
Oh,
wow! He was at 123 on Ralph Avenue. All right, and he was a great mentor, a union guy.
Is he still around?
Yeah, we still see each other. He just turned 80.
Get him on the show. We need a black guy.
Come on.
He, just speaking of black guys, one more time. One of my favorite people. He's still alive. He's probably about 95 years old. And Orman Smith. He was a lieutenant 279. And I'll say this delicately, but he was a great guy, storyteller about what it was like to be black in the fire department in the 50s. We all know racism did not run deep, all right? Everybody was an asshole. They took their turn. If you did your job, everybody loved you. And that overwhelmingly was the case.
Yeah, no doubt.
Lieutenant Smith had a rough beginning.
Yeah, the early guys, right? The early guys. The early guys, the real early guys.
Yeah, and if he had a chip on his shoulder, I would thoroughly understand. And his first day as a Proby on the tour, he goes to a firehouse. He knocks on the door. They take his stuff. They throw it in the basement. This is the black guy's locker is down there.
Oh, fuck.
Only come up when we get a run. You know, welcome to the fire department.
Yeah.
And again, in 95, he's still doing well.
Get him on the show. Let's go. Give me his number. Hey, I did want to ask you a question, Lou. So let's say that you didn't get laid off and you stayed in 235. Do you think you would have stayed in 235, or do you think you would eventually went to a truck?
I got the bug. there's a story about studying. I got promoted later in my career than typical, and it had to do with learning things. But what I would say, I don't know. I probably would have. I would have liked to have tried a truck. We had, well, in the battalion at the time, there was just 111. That was the only truck. But I also had some details to rescue too, and as a young fireman. And this was the Freddie Gallagher years, and they brought over a lot of guys from Brownsville. And again, I worked with the same guys. I mean, Leo Leppi, Bill Polera, Jack Carney. Oh God. I mean, there's a handful of guys that
everybody worked the same tours. They never swapped out.
It's
no
like the Hall of Fame.
No
and
24s.
They were always gentlemen. They always shared work things with me. What to do, what not to do. And I brought this up with Jack Kleehouse. It hasn't turned up yet. I worked a tour on a detail the night before their 50th anniversary. And we had a shit night, depending upon how you look at it. It was a great night. We were out all night. All right.
Now this is in Rescue 2?
This is a Rescue 2, and they're setting up to do their anniversary breakfast or lunch or whatever on the day tour. So it's early in the morning. We're running around picking up some stuff, and it was already a photographer in quarters, and a bunch of guys had showed up, and they wanted to take a group shot of the Rescue 2 guys. And I don't remember his name. He was just a big redheaded fireman that I worked with the night before, a wonderful guy. And he just he waved to me, and he put his arm around me, and that's how I took the picture. I told Chief Kleehouse, I said, somewhere in Rescue 2 archives, I am in the Rescue 2 picture.
Nice.
Before he was there.
It's great.
Yeah. Hey, if you were in 235, I mean, ILP went to a rescue from an engine, right? It wasn't unheard of, so it could have been you.
No, I don't think I wasn't a rescue guy.
Yeah.
That would have come after a truck. I got to figure out the truck first.
So when you did go to 130,
I do. I was just waiting for a moment to hop in, but go ahead.
So when you did go to 131, I mean, you didn't have that much truck experience, right? I mean,
nothing. The first drill, okay? I've never really been in a bucket or operated a bucket before. The first drill, we're in Red Hook near the dock somewhere, and they're showing me what to do. And okay, within minutes, we get a job in Park Slope. Whole top floor is going. I got the OV. They're putting me up in the bucket, and all I remember was the chauffeur saying, "Put it over the fire! Put it over the fire!" So I'm bringing the bucket up over the fire. I'm like dying. Like, what the fuck? He was talking about the stang in the bucket.
Not the bucket.
They were going to charge it. So he didn't want to charge. Put it over the building.
Oh shit.
I had a little bit of a language problem in the fire department. Back to 235 for a second. So it's the first night tour. I'm working there. There's a supermarket down the block to get the meal. So it's closing, and I'm running out, and they're telling me, get a roast beef, get potatoes, get corn, get 6. So now I come back to the kitchen with the bag. I put it on the table. They take out the roast beef. They take out the potatoes, and they take out 6 cans of corn. You go, where's the beer? I said, I told you to get 6. I got 6 cans of corn.
6 cans of corn.
Hey, Rick,
the old days.
Chief Kleehouse in the chat said Jimmy Drake is the redheaded guy that you were talking about, and his son Mike is a lieutenant in 136 now.
Wow. All right, small world again.
Yeah, it comes around, right?
So tell us about this right here.
All right, this is a lesson learned. This was a photographer again that was with us. It's around the corner of Lincoln Place. Change of tours. Nighttime, so it's got to be, in the winter. It was partially vacant, 3 or 4 stories. I think 4 or 5. It was a big building. So again, change of tours. It's around the corner. You had the guys working, and you had the buffs. All right, guys took in the job. we're up on the roof. My mentor, lieutenant mentor, Billy Blake, who I worked with a lot of years, he's working. He's working legit. I'm working legit. And about 3 or 4 guys had buffed the fire, and we're all up on the roof. And before it got like this, now the shit hits the fan. We didn't know how we were getting off, and we don't know who's up there. And that was when, afterwards we came back. It's great, you want to help out, but we can't have that happen again. You couldn't go down there was no way to go. The only way off the roof was with this aerial. At some point,
over the fire.
Over the fire. At some point, we still had the booster reel on the back of the engine, I believe.
Yeah.
That was the only thing that they could get water out of, to try to help us off the roof. So because I had that picture, that was usually the pictures I keep in my house. They were memory of it was a close one, or
we didn't do so good.
You got to learn a lesson from that.
Hey Rick, there was Kevin Kelly in the chat said, Lieutenant Rick Bruno, one of the best bosses I ever worked with. One of my favorite lines he used to say when you told him you had a problem, his answer was always, "There are no problems, just solutions."
Solutions. Yeah, I was blessed. I really had no problem child or folders of guys, all this shit.
We're at Disney World, right? We're at Disney World.
Yeah. Kevin Kelly, which I'll get to in a second. Yeah, I mean, there's no point in dwelling over a problem. What are we going to do about it? So I just didn't want to hear there's a problem. We're gonna find some way around it. But I'm here because of Kevin Kelly, and he worked with me the morning of 9/11. We get the box from 289 to go to the Rock to pick up bottles because they actually thought they could fight the fire at that time. And we were picking bottles up at the Rock, and we're going to take them down to the Trade Center because we were a Scott Depot in quarters.
That's right.
So we get to the Rock, and the guys are loading bottles as much as they can. And I'm in the rig, and I'm hearing all the transmissions at about 10 o'clock about, help, cries for help. So I'm anxious to get out of there. So we get all the guys on the rig. And we take off, and then Kevin, wait, we could fit more bottles. He found another place to put more bottles. And I'm like, all right, hurry up. So it may have been 2 minutes extra. And that 2 minutes was the difference because we chose to go down West Street. And I'm watching the whole thing in front of me going down West Street. My chauffeur at the time, Mike Dunphy, he's saying, where do you want to go? And I said, get as close as you can. I mean, you're not going to get help from anybody. Get as close as you can. So as we're responding, we just get by the Stuyvesant Bridge that goes to Stuyvesant High School, and I'm looking at the tower, and I get on the air because
I do have it. Hold on one second.
Oh, well, you got that picture. I could see the tower. I'll always remember it. It looked like it was covered in ice, and when it was ready to go, it all shattered and caught the light. So it looked like ice breaking away from the building.
And you can see the rig down by that bridge on the bottom right corner.
This came from a helicopter, obviously. 138 truck is in the cloud, and at the bottom right, we think that's 289 because that's about where we would have been at that moment.
Rick, I came on with Mike Dunphy, actually.
Oh, really? Oh,
he spent this whole time there, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
When he drove. No, he was a fireman in the backstep for a while, and then he drove me, part of the 24. When did 138 go on that box? Did they get called fairly early, or
138 got called right away, and they had to meet at the. They were lining up on this side of the Midtown Tunnel, I believe, and then when they got enough rigs, they all went over together. So the guys at 138, I mean, nobody got banged up. Everybody's alive in both companies. But they were right there when it started to come down, and they just all took off and hid and found shelter where they could. The whole point of this picture, this one member from 138, Steve Core, he had this blown up, or he's going to have it blown up, and he's going to post the writing list of the members for 138 and 289 that day for the firehouse.
That's a cool picture, man.
Yeah.
Really is. Yep.
Yeah.
And the first 3 guys, when the dust settled, the first three guys I saw walk out: Tommy Galvin, Joe Callan, and Jay Fischler. They were just covered. We made sure they were okay, and the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, man. Yep. So do you have any?
But going back to Kevin, that 2 minutes,
Yeah.
I would have been a little closer.
Yeah. You never know.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yep.
Wasn't
So you
meant
have
to
any
be.
interesting 123 stories other than the almost up the ladder with the Buffs? Anything else?
Well, all right. Oh, yeah. If you want to do it the fire side, probably one of the worst loss of life fires that the city's had. I mean, there's been a lot of them, but this was a little memorable. I believe it was February of '83. It was close to midnight. Billy Blach, my mentor lieutenant, he's up front, and the guys in the back, we really can't hear any radio transmissions. So he's getting them all, and all I remember him saying, he banged on the glass, and he had a high voice, and he goes, "Guys, get ready for a horror show." So it was a torch building, old tenement, fire from top to bottom when we pulled up. People at every window, and people trapped. So I think they lost something like 7 to 9 people in the job, all on the top floor. A lot of them were kids. And the people who were rescued in that particular job, I had the OV. I had just finished taking off people and trying to get them down and not kill them, getting them off the ladder. And the Duke, Kenny Connolly, was in the bucket 111 on the fourth side, and he must have. Now we don't have radios or radios that work very well. My chauffeur, Bill Ostrander, another wonderful guy that I got to work with, he must have heard, I need help up here or whatever, however that came. So I'm ready to go back up the aerial, and just about that time, a woman comes over and grabs me, because the pedestals were not as high as they are now. Those older rigs, I mean, you were pretty close to the ground. So she was able to grab my foot or something, and she's screaming, "My kids are in there, my kids are in there." But she told me the second floor. These were all kids that were on the top floor. So I get distracted. I go do my thing, and in the meantime now, Ozzy goes up the aerial to help Kenny Connolly. And they pull a couple of people out, I believe. But out of that job, Kenny Connolly got the Gordon Bennett out of it.
Wow.
Ozzy got the Brooklyn Citizen. Connolly got the Archer Medal 3 years later out of that. And there's a slew of other guys from squad, rescue. I mean, it was almost like everybody that found somebody, got a medal out of it. So that was pretty memorable.
Huh.
And that, I had very young kids at the time. And we all know how emotion plays into this job.
Yeah.
You can't be emotional all the time because you'll blow up. So it was a tough night, and I get home that morning and I walked through the door and I sat down. I was exhausted and I just broke out into tears because I had young kids. And I got involved in helping taking out some of the taking the kids off the top floor. So all of that emotion that was there, it stayed down until
spills out
the safety
sometimes.
valve went off.
Yeah. Chief Kleehouse says 285 Albany Avenue. It says the address.
285 Albany. Yeah, okay.
See that? Amazing.
He probably.
It's almost as if Chief Kleehouse really wants to be on this show.
I would say he should be on the show. He's just as well,
I wonder when we talk, like what his facial expression is like right now. Like, what is he doing? Is he going like this? Is he just
call Freddie LaFamina and have him send over,
Hey, Moose, Rocco, help
Moose, Rocco, help Chief Kleehouse find his internet, will you?
Yeah. Jeez.
Help him find his laptop, will you?
Oh my God.
So when you were in 123, now I don't know the exact area, but 235 wouldn't run. They're like more with 111, right? 123 it'd have to be an extra engine or.
111 would come up and 132. So it kind of pinched off 123. So as a fireman, I would see them at an all hands.
Right.
Sometimes maybe there was no fast truck or anything, so
right.
It's just if they wanted to take it in. But always. Just always a good place to be. And
did you ever get detailed back to 235 when you were 123?
No. Once I got the taste of a truck.
No, I mean, but did you ever get a detail over there?
Oh, no, they weren't in the same. They did go. They got away from the battalion detail at some point, and they went to like borough details or whatever. But I don't remember a lot of details. Period. Out of the firehouse. Once in a while, but not much.
I covered that in the truck.
Which this is a non-fire, but worthy. This is in the early '80s. Crack and cocaine were out of control. And it started with shots coming in through the second floor into the bunk room.
Holy shit.
And everybody was like, oh my God, the PD was there, detectives, everybody. I remember they were rolling up magazine paper and sticking it in through the glass so they could measure the trajectory and find out where that bullet came from. Well, that lasted about a couple of months, that they were that concerned. There was so much gunfire on the corner of Schenectady and St. John's. I think that was the first firehouse they put bulletproof glass up.
Really?
Because the house watch was like right on the corner, two sides, a corner.
Yeah,
and
right.
They put bulletproof glass up. So back to the detail now. So the local precinct was heavily involved in dealing. That was a whole other scandal that they went through. That
swing and a miss, he struck him out.
So I get detailed to 113 for a night tour, and during the night 123 catches a job and some guys go out of service. So me and a guy from 249 now, there was enough manpower. Listen, go back to your firehouse, they need you over there. It was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. We come back in the car. The parking lot is behind the firehouse, so I got the key. I open it, we pull the car in, I lock it. We take about 2 steps, pop, 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 pop. Everywhere we look on the corner, we see flashes.
Holy
shit. So now we get down on the ground, and what the fuck are we gonna do? We can't get back into I can't reach up to get back into the parking lot. So we end up crawling around to the front with the house watching and banging, and thank God they opened it up quickly, and then we crawled in. But it
on your bellies.
On your belly.
That was pretty.
Reporting for duty.
On Chip, that happened a few times too. There was in the shower. The tile had a bullet hole in it when I used to leave it for work.
Ah, good memories.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, so let's talk about when you get promoted then. So you spend 8 years in 123, and then you get promoted in 88, and you go to the promoted in June of 88, and then you signed to the 5-2 battalion.
I got assigned to the 5-2.
Uh-huh.
It was a little bit of a transitional period in my career. My body was banged up. I had health issues I was dealing with. And we had just come off Jack Toomey, who got killed in December of 87. So there was a bit of feeling. I started to think too much, which is not a good thing. Very uncomfortable as a fireman, and now I'm a lieutenant. So around that time, I had gone back to school. I went back to St. John's. I left St. John's to become a fireman, and I never graduated. So I started that, and I'm covering in Queens for a while. I'll tell the 263 story now. My first tour as an officer, 263. I shouldn't have said 263 because now I'm going to have to clean it up. Let's just say I've never been in the house. I've never been in the house before. I go up, and the office is in the front on the second floor. As I'm passing somebody in the dark in the bunk room, I smell inappropriate substance.
Oh no!
But
allegedly,
I'm fine with that. I'm a child of the '60s, and I do my thing. I'm trying to feel my way around, and it's time to go for the meal. So the person that I passed in the bunk room, he's my chauffeur.
Oops.
And this, he struck him out.
And we go to the shop, and I'm sitting in the rig on my side, And I'm hearing fire engines all over the place. And I'm looking around. I've never been in the front of the rig. I was never a chauffeur, so I don't know what the hell goes on up here.
This
And I'm
has
listening.
the makings of a bad situation.
So when he gets back, that's when I realized he didn't just turn the engine off. He just shut the whole rig down. Radio.
So you had the radio.
So you had no MDT, nothing. They're calling you.
No, there's none of that. So the whole rig is shut off. So now when I get back to quarters, you guys used to have a buff, a tall, thin guy that looked arranged.
Ray the Buff. They had Ray the Buff. He was a heavy guy, though.
No, this was a tall, thin guy. He meets me out on the apron with a handful of tickets from the house watch. So I'm looking at them, and I'm like, we missed 4 runs.
Oh, my God almighty.
So the 4-9 was in quarters up back then. They were upstairs. And that was the call I got in the office. And I thought I was going to get a new asshole. The chief had no problem with missing the runs. He wanted to know why one of my guys had the wrong shirt on. So after hearing that, I'm like, all right, this isn't on the level either.
That's why we used to try and break the wall back up again. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Holy shit. That's
great first tour.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
I'm going back to the firehouse. I'm going back to the truck.
I think after a couple of months, I got detailed to the HiRise Unit.
Yep, I was just going to say it. Yep.
Now, you've had Tommy McTeague as a guest. I know Tommy because part of what I did is I gave the fire safety director test. And Tommy was retired. He was working in a hotel. And he sets up an appointment. So now I meet him for the first time. We go up into one of the empty rooms in the hotel. And, we're just talking bullshit, and I'm learning about him. He's learning about me. I didn't really, hammer him with a test because he's a fireman, but he's a colorful guy, to say the least. And he was on the rug, crawling from room to room, reenacting jobs, pulling people out.
He didn't come in the hat and the robe, the bathrobe, did he? On the interview?
No, he didn't have that.
The Hugh Hefner
robe. Wow. What do they actually do over there in the task force? HiRise
The HiRise Unit, they did 2 things. It was basically all the hotels and all the office buildings, without getting into particulars what makes them hotels and office buildings. But you would either do an inspection, make sure, it was pretty good and safe. And every building had to have a fire safety director or a deputy fire safety director on the property all the time. And you would give them the test to see if they were qualified, and they would get their C of O. Well, not a C of O, certificate of fitness. And that with school, I really couldn't finish school in the firehouse covering because I didn't have.
So that worked out good for you.
So I held on to that for a while. My body started to get better.
Right.
And the hardest component to finish school, I had to be in the classroom. I was back in education to be a teacher. I had to be in the classroom a full semester. So how do I do that?
Right.
And I never worried about anything in this job because shit just works out. So the social club task force was put together after the Happy Land fire, and it wasn't a bad detail, but a lot of guys didn't like it. But I had it explained to me, and what I wound up doing was your tours were Thursday night, 10 hours, and then Friday and Saturday were both 15 hours. So that was your 40 hours. So I always took 10 hours vacation on Thursday night.
So you had the whole week off.
Monday to Friday, I was in the classroom.
Went to school and then weekends.
Oh, wow. We got one of those educated guys here, Ruffy.
I have so many credits that they're useless though. I didn't need them for anything. They didn't.
Well,
they didn't
you
have
made it
that
work
requirement.
for you.
So how did you become a tiger? How does that happen? Oh.
Well, after before how can I say this delicately? Queens always took a hit for their firematics.
Right.
And I'll stop. I did 13 years in the firehouse, and that was enough. I was on paper. I was there longer, but I did 13 good years there. And the hardest jobs I ever had were in Queens, because everything seemed to be the PDs, crowded access. Too many guys in a small building.
Here it comes, Ruffy. And then when a squad came in '98,
everything was rough.
when a squad came '98, there was 5 other assholes.
I never had problems with the special service people. They were always very, very polite.
How many more guys can we fit in that building, Kev?
At least 5 more.
There you go. There you go.
No, I agree. Especially Corona had. I mean, they had a lot of occupancy there. There were a lot of people packed into small places there. So every time you showed up, and you guys were right in the heart of that there. You know what I mean?
I had when the CO meters started to show up. So I used to get a lot of odor or whatever in the building. So I'm working with a good friend of mine, Mike McLaughlin, at 138. It's a cold winter night, and we get an odor. So we're carrying the CO meters probably for one of the first times, and we're using them. So it's semi-attached, 2 PDs, and the guys are going through, taking readings. By the time we get, and again, it's been a bit of cold out, and the readings are going through the roof, and they're kind of like shooing people out. Mike and I get out on the stoop, and now we turn around and look out on the street for the first time after the 2 semis were. There had to be 100 people outside.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
and
crazy.
We look at each other, and we were of the mindset, we're not going to make this bigger than it is. You don't want to involve a chief or anybody else. Yeah. And it's like, the reading's coming down. Yeah, all right, everybody go back in.
I would say the best jobs that we had is the squad, even, and we always knew 289 and the truck with some of the best companies in Queens, right? So, but there were always jobs where you would show up and there were people hanging out of everywhere all the time. And that's kind of what, I got used to doing over there, especially Jackson Heights too, right? You guys ran in over there.
Jackson Heights. Jackson Heights, that job before in Albany with all the DOAs. Now that I had mutual into, this is the luck of the draw.
Right.
They had a job in Jackson Heights early, I'm going to say around 2003, 2004, where it just was everything with the dispatch, the address. It's the winter time. I think they had about 17 people that were pretty banged up. A lot died. Vic Rosa, 138, got the Gordon Bennett out of it.
Oh, yeah. Hoppy had that job. Yep.
A lot of medals came out of it, 138, unit citations, that whole thing. And that would have been my tour, but I mutualed out, so
right.
You never know with that stuff. It's always luck, whether you're going to be working or not.
Did you work any tours in 138 at all?
Oh, yeah.
Were you amazed coming from 123 how huge their response area was?
Well, when I covered this is a 138. This is one of my first tours of 138. I'm learning Queens. I'm not going to give anybody a hit, unless they deserve it. And I'm just there for the day tour. We catch a job right away, pretty much up towards Astoria Boulevard. And it was a high-rise. So I go into the elevator, and I'm not in 138. I'm in 154, and I'm working with 138. So we get in first due, and we get stuck in the elevator. I guess too many guys, whatever the reason, it's not moving. So I get on the air and I'm telling 138, you got the fire floor, all right? So my inside team or my outside team, they didn't know we switched up assignments. So the fire goes out, everything gets done. But what was like a knife in my heart, when I got back to 54, Lou, where were you? And I was like explaining my ass off. I got out of it. They understand what happened. But what a horrible thing to hear as a boss. Where were you?
Like, where were you? Right.
Wow.
Which a character, they got UFO, or what's not UFO? Was covered in the 15th Division. An officer, lieutenant. He didn't want to be there. He got a reputation like immediately. His last name rhymes with found. I don't want to like give it all away. But we get a job at 234. I'm in 123. We're forcing the door. It's getting shitty. We can't see what we're doing. 234 is on the landing below, so we're yelling, "We need a light. We need another light up here." The fucking light comes bouncing up the stairs onto the landing, with nothing attached to it.
I love it.
And it was
he gave you a light.
never to be found.
He gave you a light. What do you want? You want everything?
Did you ever work with my other brother in 307? The Rug?
I was there a lot. I don't remember all the names.
Oh, you would know him, the Rug. You would know the Rug. Bad Rug.
I would know the Rug.
Big mouth. Oh yeah, come on, you would know the Rug.
I don't remember him.
Oh,
I don't remember him.
Who's the tall guy? I always Tarantino.
Joe Tarantini. Yeah, 138.
He's still there?
I think he's still there.
Yeah, Joe's still there.
Wow.
He's
I always seen him at all the jobs.
Tiger One.
I used to see him. He lived in Whitestone. I don't know if he still does. When I lived in Whitestone, I used to see him all the time.
Yeah, he's still there.
Yeah, you didn't wear one of those little tails on the back of your helmet, did you?
No.
All right. No.
But I have a golf bag. I don't even play golf, but I have a golf bag that's black and orange with stripes.
Yeah,
just because it looks cool.
All right, that's all right.
A lot of pride. There's no doubt about it. Get it? Pride.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Pride. Oh, look at you making it. Yeah.
See how
any good fire stories coming out of 289?
Besides being very difficult, a good fire. Well, it's kind of how can I explain it? It's a fire story, but it's not much of a fire story. But it's a funny fire story.
All right.
We get rubbish on the tracks. We have the LIRR behind us. We get rubbish on the tracks, and it's above grade. And I'm in the rig, and I'm talking to the dispatcher, engine only. And one of the guys climbed up so he could see, and he goes, "Lou, I think you better come up here." So they had a homeless problem at the time at Flushing Meadow Park, and it was one of the homeless that had tripped on the third rail, and he was incinerated.
Whoops. Oh, man.
Oh.
So
that's rubbish. He was really rubbish.
It changed the dynamic a little. There wasn't much we could do, but what came out of that is a real funny line. There was a character in the engine, and he was driving. So we just get back on the apron. 138 was buffing the whole thing. And they were curious about what happened. What did he look like? And he came back with, he looked like the last Frankfurter off the grill at a company picnic.
He ain't lying. He ain't lying.
So that was a cool line.
Speaking of buffs, how was it working with the yak? I mean, you had to see the yak all the time, right? It was sending you to everything. That son of a
rest
bitch.
his soul.
I was just going to say, God rest his soul. He just passed up to
wonderful, wonderful man. But anything I ever asked him that I might use up front, I couldn't get an answer out of him. He would tip us off every once in a while, like get off the EMS run, it sounds good, that kind of thing.
Oh, dude, that guy, every time when I was in 117, when I was 288, every time. Yeah, we're available. Queen's calling 138, 289. You guys available? Yeah, all right, take it in. I'm like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
He did that all the time.
The guy, there's Joe Minogue on the left. The guy next to him,
90.
The guy next to him, he's got another great line I'll get to. That's Dave McAndrews, Mike Schmid, me, Patty Mulcair, wonderful, wonderful chauffeur, Debo. The guy behind me with the white hair, Pat Mulcair, he never admitted it, but I knew he did it. He hated double parked cars, if we were responding to something. And he would squeeze through. He was a wonderful driver. But just before he would be all the way through, he'd give it a little twist, to give it a little.
I like it.
I don't think he knows that I know that I bet you know that I know that you know.
That's mad skills. That's good skills he's got.
I like it.
Yeah.
But if I may jump ahead to an EMS run, I have more EMS stories with 289 than very different fire stories. This was an EMS run on a beautiful summer day, and it comes in as a young man cut himself. A young 19-year-old cut himself. So we get to the door. It's open. PD. I'm holding the guy's back because I like to know what the hell I'm getting into. And there's an old guy up at the top landing, and he says, "It's up here. It's my son." So I walk. I follow him to the kitchen, and then there's a room onto the side. So as soon as I make the turn, I'm looking on the floor on the carpet, and I recognize it's a set of balls on the floor.
Oh, no way.
So now I kind of lean in a little more.
This is a first.
And the owner, the owner's on the couch, under a cover, with his legs crossed, smoking a cigarette. All right. So I was pretty my demeanor was pretty good as an officer.
Wait a minute. You mean the owner of the balls that were on the
owner
floor?
of the balls, yeah.
Oh, so
He's smoking a cigarette.
Oh, all right.
Smoking a
He's done. He
cigarette.
took care of business.
So if I ever write a book, this is going to be one of my book titles. You cut your fucking balls off? And he says, yeah. I says, okay. So now the guys come in to do and administer first aid. Not much bleeding. So they wrap him up. So now
Really?
in the
I would think there would be
meantime,
more bleeding.
what?
There wasn't a lot of bleeding. Did he
Well,
cauterize
because he was probably because his legs were crossed on the couch. And,
Pressure.
Did we bother to find out why he cut his balls off, or we didn't?
Well, that came sometime later from EMS. He probably didn't want to be a guy anymore.
Oh.
And he didn't even do it with a knife. He did it with a big pair of shears.
Oh, my. Oh,
yeah,
ow.
So they're very,
ow.
Totally normal. Totally normal.
We had a member from 138 with us.
Gary!
That was not... He believed that all of the appropriate genitals should belong to the original person. I want to say this delicately. He did not care for balls at all, okay? So, what do I do naturally?
Malone.
Bobby, get ice. Put the balls on ice. So,
I was going to say, what'd you do with the balls?
that was it. No, he carried them at arm's length out of the building in a bag wrapped up.
Big balls?
EMS.
He didn't drop them,
to
did
the
he?
EMS.
It wasn't
he dropped the ball, did he?
Nice.
So now we're there, EMS is there, PD's there, the father's there, and the 5-2 battalion's on the box. So I had told my chauffeur already, turn him around. So I can't think of his name. If I heard it, he was a deputy, a DAC maybe up in the Bronx. Can't think of his name. He may still be around. So he decided to take the box in. He comes up the stairs. He's trying to find out what really happened. Once we tell him, he goes right on his handy-talkie, very loud, so the father's right there. Paulie, you're not going to believe this. Bring up the camera. There goes, trying to take care of Dad. So, we do our thing. Everybody leaves. And now we go back to quarters. And again, 138, they seemed always to be in quarters a lot. All right, so they're back on the
Nice.
What happened? And Dave, who I pointed out later, without missing a beat, they asked him, did he cut his dick off? And he goes, nah, he didn't have the balls.
Oh! I like that.
True story.
Chief Kleehouse wants to know if you ever rode a stationary bike race on the BQE. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, that one, I could have done it. I don't have a very sharp memory of it, but I wouldn't say it's out of the realm. We had a lot of fun in 131, besides the work. A good bunch of guys. Going back to 131, with the changeover and trying to juice things up, I am one of the original authors of Happy Hookers. That was their slogan, and it came from, at the time, a madam had written a book, Zavaria Hollander, the Happy Hookers. And I thought, what a great name for the firehouse. Red Hook, you carry a hook.
They all wear Hasselhoff shorts. Petey, we have that picture. We don't think we used that one before.
I got it.
We had a couple guys packing.
For the old turkey trot.
This is the Richard Simmons turkey trot.
There's a couple guys packing in this one, you might
say.
Gary!
Where are you in this picture, Lou?
I'm on the far right.
The
The far right. I was a pretty good runner back then.
Could you imagine guys walked out of the house with those things on?
With those shorts on?
Well, Nick Mancuso, yeah. I mean, he'd be arrested now, all the way on the left for that appearance.
Look at it. Must be comfortable though. Yeah.
Bye. Yeah.
Nice
But
the Tin Man's got to watch where he's swinging the axe. You know what I mean?
nice package.
Yeah.
And there's Commissioner Hines, Charlie Hines and Spinato, who were just transitioning at the time, so they made the turkey trot. And Tommy, it's quick. Tommy Gates, that's the guy that's right next to me. He was. We knew each other from 131. He was a sergeant of arms for the UFA, and his thing was the medical office, which was kind of like a butcher shop back in those days. And all Tommy would do, the waiting room was very different than it is now. It was on Spring Street, and I believe there were just 2 offices with 2 doctors. And all he would do was show up with a camera, an Instamatic, and as guys would go in, take pictures, and the flash would go off, and it used to infuriate the doctors, and they would eventually throw him out. But that was he was just trying to intimidate them. Like you can't treat these guys the way you're treating them. You're a doctor.
Who's the guy that dressed up in the Tin Man outfit? Who's that lucky guy?
He probably came out of either 232 or 176.
He was probably the Proby.
Probably the Proby, yeah.
You get in the Tin Man outfit, all right? That's what we're dressing Pete up in the next show. Pete, get in the Tin Man outfit.
I was hurt.
He would show up every year.
I was hurt with my words.
I was hurt at work today. Hey, Hank in the chat wants to know if you had the when you were in 123, the fire with the witch doctor, they were doing the exorcism. Did you have that job?
We had a witch doctor lady next door that used to leave chicken feet on the cars if you parked on the sidewalk.
Oh.
I don't remember a witch doctor fire of sorts.
He said he was in 132. I think he told the story that they were doing an exorcism of a they had a kid in a coffin, and I think the whole apartment caught fire, and they something
I did not have that pleasure.
You just had chick feet on your hood of your car when you came out, which could be just you never know. Maybe she was putting the malukya on you,
The maluk.
The maluk. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Holy
All right.
Is that time, Pete?
I know it's that time, and you know what time it is, guys? It's
I don't
time
know.
for the old school tip of the day.
What's not better to have a guy who had 43 years on the job with an old school tip of the day? Do it.
Shoot it.
All right. Well, I have 3 tips.
Nice.
One tip is if you came on the job 50 years ago, and it won't work today. But going to 235 very early on, one of the members, who I don't remember, said, "Hey kid, always work with one glove, in your pocket." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He says, "You always want to have one exposed hand, and you're always feeling over your head for the heat. And if you if you need to, you can always pull your hand back in the coat, but always work with one glove." And again, can't do that anymore. The other 2 tips that are more pertinent, going back to Lieutenant Lowe, who was on the deck. I got promoted at 15. I think I had 15 years on the job, and probably around 12. That's when my motivation came, because we're at a promotion party, 231, 120, ton of companies all around. And Lieutenant Lowe asked me, "Rick, where are you on the list?" And I said, I'm not on the list. I didn't study. I want to be a good fireman before I'm a boss. And this is the line that I had no excuses for. He goes, "Rick, if you study and you never get promoted, you'll be a better fireman." And I'm like, wow. And that got me on the road to recovery, and I did get promoted soon after that.
Wow.
The other one is my DNA is whether I like something or don't like something. This is good for the members in the field, the younger members in the field. Again, whether you like something or don't like something, do your best. All right? Your name is on everything you do. If it's your turn to clean the toilet, do the best you can with it. And it's a good approach to everything, because then you're not making excuses that maybe you're too good to do something, or that's not my job. If somebody puts their hand on your shoulder or turns you around and you're told to do something, or you're given a job, or you have a responsibility to something, do your best. So that's my tip of the day.
Excellent day. You know, Lou, you hit on two. It's so funny that I say to my kids all the time. They come to me and they say, "Dad, I have a problem," and I say to them, "Well, let's find a solution." And now you said the exact thing that I say to them all the time. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you're outside picking up dog shit. Be the best dog shit scooper you've ever been in your life, bro. Do the best job you can ever do. So, wow, excellent job. Thank you, Lou. Appreciate it.
So you're a good dad.
Try to be anyway.
You're a good dad.
Well done, Rick.
Rick, great job. I love talking about the early times in the 70s, and I learned a lot about the strike, and I learned a lot about guys getting laid off tonight. And
Bobby Cerno said this is going to happen. Like, my list of things, it's just too much. But I'm glad we hit some highlights. How much time do I have? Do I have 2 minutes?
Go ahead. Sure.
Because, I didn't look down at that. I had to get this one in too. Marty Selleck. He got killed in July of 1977. Some of you may know him from the Marty Selleck run in Staten Island. They do a charity every year. But Marty, we were friends. We drove buses together. The week before, about a week before he got killed, he was at my house. I was recovering from being in a collapse in Red Hook in 131, me and another guy. We ended up in the hospital for a couple of weeks. So now Marty's visiting me at my house with his girlfriend, Rachel. They were engaged. And, he made a comment about, I'm probably next, with three of us that were very good friends at the time. And just again to segue, you guys always talk about friendship in this job and how you may not see somebody for like 30 years and you talk. Well, the other side of that is keeping friendships for a long time. And there's two guys in particular, Winnie Cluth, who I was a Proby with. We just went away to Cape May together. We're friends for 50 years still. And Joe Colosino, he was the first guy after the one that told me about no strike and no layoffs. He was the second guy I remember meeting at the firehouse. with his hand outstretched and welcome to 235. He was so glad to see me because he was the first Proby in 5 years.
Oh, man.
They hadn't really hired anybody from 68 to 73. He was so glad to have help.
Yeah, no doubt.
So back to Marty. So he was assigned 18 truck at the time, and he's working overtime at 15 engine. And they get a vacant on the Lower East Side, top floor. And this is where, if it's still in the safety bulletins, we were inundated with vacant buildings and vacant fires and a lot of guys getting banged up. And what they used to do to be cute, you'd be in a fire on an upper floor and they would light the floor underneath you somewhere, all right? And that's what happened at Marty's job. It was one of the first times, and that's when they wrote it into the books, like to be aware of that. So the second floor gets lit up. They get trapped on the top floor. They're on the fire escape. And 18 trucks trying to put the bucket into the smoke. Everybody got off but Marty. And he took a step. And he was a big dude. He was 6'4". He fell 5 stories. And he didn't die right away. And he ended up in, I'm going to say, downtown Beekman Hospital. And I went to the hospital immediately. And I knew the family. I'm saying hello. And a nurse tapped me on my shoulder. And she says, "Are you family?" And I says, "No." I was disappointed I was going to get thrown out. She says, "Oh, great. We want somebody different to talk to him." So they bring me into where he was. And I knew he fell 5 stories. He looked perfectly fine except for a little bruising under the eye. And he was on a respirator. So I just sat there for an hour talking to him. That's all they wanted me to do. And he held on for about a week, and then he died.
Did he slip get in the bucket, or he slipped? He fell off
he missed the bucket. He stepped off the fire escape and he fell.
I don't know if somebody brought that up beforehand. I remember that story.
But the Selleck family, the mother and father have passed. But I'm sure there's a ton of stories out there of family tragedies. But this has got to be like a little bit unique. His fiancée Rachel now, so she loses Marty. She was always very close with the Selleck family. We roll ahead now a lot of years to 9/11. And Marty had a younger brother, Tommy, who died in 9/11 as a civilian. And Rachel had remarried a fireman, Harvey Harrell. And he died in 9/11.
That's what we heard. I heard that story.
I'm like, oh my God, how much tragedy that family had.
Yeah. We heard that story.
And that's all I got.
Yeah, man.
Well, we appreciate your time on. I knew it was going to be a good show when you started sending me those pictures, especially those with the long hair and the 70s.
Put that one back on.
One more time. Put the Magic Mike shot back up.
Oh, this is the one right here.
Yeah.
Let's leave on that high note.
Just before that, my hair was even longer than that, and I got married a month before coming on the fire department. When I got home from my honeymoon, I opened up the letter, welcome to the fire department, and it must have had a little bit of a schedule in there. And I remember my wife saying, 48 wonderful years, what do you mean you work 2 nights a week? And I didn't know. But we had gone to the rectory to make arrangements for the wedding. St. Matthias in Ridgewood. And we go to the rectory. We ring the bell, the door opens, and the priest goes, what can I do for you girls?
Holy smokes.
That's a good way to leave it off. That's a good way.
That's a good way. All righty. All right,
boys.
Petey boy, do your thing, buddy.
Well, do you guys have any shout outs tonight before we check out?
Not.
No, boys. I want to give one quick shout out.
Go ahead, brother.
And I want to give a shout out to a collective, and that is this chat. Because during the course of this show, as I always say, it's the best audience in the game. And it really is. Because during the course of the night, there was a kid in the chat with like a legitimate, honest question or 2 or 3 even about getting on the fire service. He's planning on taking the test. What physical fitness should he be doing? Is it a good idea to visit some firehouses in the neighborhood? His name was Caleb. What should he do? And the audience jumped to his aid right there on the spot. And that's what this is all about. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the people that we have here. And I just wanted to thank the chat for being so great, because they just always come through no matter what. They're becoming like a family, an extended family for us. So thank you, chat, for being really freaking cool. That's all I wanted to say on that.
Good job, Pete.
Other than that, guys, you know the deal. You can find us as an audio podcast besides just video on iTunes Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever fine audio podcasts are found. But if you are here on youtube.com/Gettin Salty Experience, take that booger hook off the bang switch and hit the like, subscribe, and share.
Who's going to hit the right here? This guy's going to hit it.
Look, Chief Steve's hitting the like, subscribe, and share button.
Hit it.
And anyway, do that, please. It helps us out a lot. It's free. Hello, firefighters, free.
It's for me.
Subscribe. Also, guys, Instagram, we're on @SaltyDogInc. Great photos, salty as hell, classic. Fun to see pop up in your feed. Gents, GettinSaltyApparel.com. And you ask why? Because that's what men do. That's just one of the many t-shirts we have. This lovely tumbler. Tons and tons of stuff. I like the lighter, the Zippo with the fire blowing out of the 3rd floor. It's like a little building there. So very cool. Thanks to everybody who hit us up in the super chat tonight. That always helps out. We really appreciate that. Keeps spirits high around my house anyway. Facebook, guys, Getting Salty fans page. Head on over there if you guys want to see some funny stuff and all kinds of last minute information for the show. You could have seen some cool pictures of Kev partying with the 3 doors down, whoever that is, last night, and Tito's. Lots and lots of Tito's.
Oh, yeah.
Email us, guys. Your questions and answers. We're starting to run out. So gettingsaltyexperience@gmail.com. Come on.
Yeah, we're not getting a lot of questions. What happened? We can't do the Q&A anymore unless you knucklehead sent some questions. Let's go.
Yeah, hit us up with some questions that might be a little different than when are we going back to leather helmets or whatever. Although there is a rumor. I'm just, I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Also, guys, keep sending us your stuff. Helmet cam footage, tattoo photos, father-son pics, fire photos, all that good stuff to coopspodcast@gmail.com. That is for the Cup of Joe and Fuego show, coopspodcast@gmail.com. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all the news.
All the news that
is fit to print.
That's great. Good job. I listen, fellas, I kind of try to keep an eye on the chat. I know that a couple of guys said we lost some members recently. So our prayers go out. Rest in peace. I think there was a couple of COVID losses. There was a couple of other guys I can't see. Try to keep my eye on the chat.
Yeah.
So for anybody who lost their brothers, guys, rest in peace. And that's all I got. Monday night, we have Hank and Cat Murphy in a
Frank.
we got Frank Mollet and Cat Murphy in a back to basics. So check that out. And
I won't be under 4 feet of water.
I won't be under 4 feet of water. Hopefully,
Oh
because
my
I'm right
God.
by the ocean. And then I am trying to get Lieutenant Rocco and Bobby to commit to a day in October for the call to the bullpen to rescue 2 guys. That's all I got, Ruffy.
And
What do you
the
got?
Rock show is dropping Thursday then?
Thursday the 26th.
Next
I got
week.
my calendar right here. Next week. Thursday the 26th. The Rock has been approved by the FDNY. We got Petey did a great job of editing and re-editing for the littlest things, but
it's important. It's important. There's a lot of, just so the audience knows, you can't just make a video about The Rock without every single person at the FDNY checking it out. And there's also, on top of the people there, it's legal as well. And that's just par for the course. I've done this a million times with other shows, but despite that, nothing we did was
Wasn't too bad.
No, it didn't change anything.
Might I have another minute and a half?
Please do.
Okay. I ended my career on The Rock. And the problem with a lot of guys in the firehouse is they never want to leave the firehouse. And that's a mistake sometimes, because The Rock had changed drastically under Tommy Galvin. And the quality of guys that they got there for instructors, all super duper experienced guys, because The Rock became a real good place for training and the variety of the training. So that's the serious part, meeting the guys, the quality. You've experienced that now with your time over there. This is the funny one, or not funny, but just that it really pinpoints what we do. And it was Darlene Rodriguez from Channel 4 News who was doing a live feed every morning from 43 and 53. So she needed some background footage to mix in. So she'd come over to The Rock and she would film different evolutions, all right, doing stuff. And then she would do it in the morning, all right, for the whole week. So she had just gone through a bad romance with her husband who I think was cheating on her with
Yes, he
a
did.
cop. I don't know, whatever. So she was mad. She was single.
Oh, boy.
So the fireman being fireman, what better way to get back at her husband is, be romantic with a fireman.
I love it.
With a fireman, all right? So it was a lot of fun with her. So now it's the last day, and they're going to take her into the burn building and show her what fire is. So the outside crew from the TV station was all set up with the camera, the microphone, the lighting, and they're waiting for her to come out and do her shit. She comes out. They really put her as close as she could possibly get without getting hurt. She came out. She pulled off a face piece. She looked like death. She went totally off script. All she kept repeating to the camera is, "I can't believe what they do. I can't believe what they do. I can't believe." It was
Wow.
better than any script she could have wrote.
Wow.
That's cool as
Yeah,
hell.
when you see this rock show, it'll ring true everything you say. The rock is really, I mean, it's an incredible training facility. It really is amazing. It's no longer a punishment to go to the rock.
And I don't know
I
don't know if Chief Richardson's listening or anything, but if he could get Darlene Rodriguez back when we go back the next time.
Just saying. Good point, Pete.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying.
Well, Pete is really shining tonight. He really is. I mean, the producer really is.
Really is.
All right.
He's something.
He's something. All right. So we'll see you on Monday night. I'll bring my rowboat. And
maybe I could sue for punitive damages that you're giving me. Me? Sue everybody.
I don't know. Sue me. Sue everybody. Lieutenant Rick Bruno, thank you so much. I enjoyed our time together.
Thank you, guys. It was great.
We'll see you backstage. Stay on. All right, folks. Yep. Stay low and go.
All right. We'll see you at the big one, everybody. Thanks, Rick.
Okay.
Cheers, everybody.